Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to be looking at something called Total Quality Management, also known as TQM. So if we break these three words up, total is about the involvement and input of absolutely everyone in the business, from the top management right down to its lowest employees. The second thing, when we talk about quality, it's about meeting the customer's needs and requirements at all times. And lastly, when we say management, it's about the way we act and operate. What are our policies and our procedures? How are we training our staff and instructing all our employees so that we have a total quality product that we are presenting? So let's have more of a deeper meaning at TQM. It really is an integrated system that's applied throughout the whole business, which helps to design, produce, and provide quality products and services to its customers. So it really is about this idea where the entire business is operated with the idea of ensuring that the customer is at the core of everything that they do. TQM enables businesses to continuously improve on the way in which they deliver their products or their services so as to meet the customer satisfaction. Management ensures that each employee is fully responsible for the quality of his or her actions within the business. So to recap, TQM is an integrated system that involves the entire business, all the employees who are looking to continuously improve their products and services so as to ensure that customer satisfaction is increased. So now we're going to move on to the elements of TQM. You will need to be able to identify these from given scenarios. So the first one is total client satisfaction. Second one, continuous improvement of processes and systems. The third one is continuous skills development, and the fourth, adequate financing and capacity. And lastly, monitoring and evaluating of quality processes. So if you understand what TQM is, you quite easily can remember the elements because it has to do with customers. It has to do with continuously improving systems and the employees that you work with. So if we move on to the next slide, we get there. We're going to look at some examples. The first example here says employees are regularly trained to use the latest technology. So which element of TQM is described in this little scenario? And that would be the continuous skills development because it talks about training the employees. If we look at the next one, a group of employees who assemble the steering wheels of cars realized that a system was taking too long. Right? So what are they doing? They are continuously improving the processes and systems that are being used. So it's continuous improvement to processes and systems. The third one, sufficient capital and equipment are available to render quality services. So that's about adequate financing and capacity. The last one, the management of ABC Bakery ensures that customer complaints are handled within 24 hours. So the key word there is customer. So obviously our element is going to be total client satisfaction. So now that we've had a look at all the different elements, you will need to evaluate each of these elements according to a large business. And you're going to have to speak about what are the positives and negatives within each of these elements. So if we look at the first one, the total client satisfaction. Right, the positives are as follows. Remember, you're looking at this from a large business's perspective. Increased competitiveness as a business is aware of market changes, right? So because the business is large, they're aware of all their competitors, and so they consistently try to ensure that their clients are happy. Because they have increased profitability as more goods and services are sold, they can then do more with the profits that they receive. There's a higher customer loyalty and retention as the business satisfies more and more of customer needs. So it's this continuous promotion of a positive business image. The negatives are as follows. The employees often do not have a clear idea of what will satisfy their customers' needs, as they seldom even come into contact with the customers. Monopolistic companies have increased bargaining power because you're forced to buy from them. as they do not necessarily have to please customers. So your hands are tied and you simply just support them because that's the only place you can get the product or service that you need. Not all employees may be involved or committed to total client satisfaction. They just may not be interested in making sure that their clients are happy. If we look at the continuous improvements to processes and systems, this is quite an important one. And you'll see later on in the slide, we talk about a model called the PDCA, and we also talk about quality circles. So when you see this element, I want you to think of those two other things falling underneath here too. But let's look at some positives. Large businesses have resources to check on quality performance in every single unit. They have enough capital resources so that they can buy new equipment when they need it. They may have a person who is dedicated to the improvement of systems and processes. The negatives are that systems and processes take a lot of time and effort to implement in large businesses. There's a risk of changing parts of the business that are actually working well, and remember, people resist change. Not all negative feedback from employees and customers is going to be accurate, which may result in incorrect changes to systems and processes. Right, let's move on to the next element, and that is the element of continuous skills development. Some positives. Large businesses have human resource departments dedicated to training and skilling their employees. The HR experts ensure that training programs are relevant to the increased customer satisfaction. The ability to afford specialized or skilled employees puts large businesses in a positive light. They may be able to conduct skills audits to establish the competency or educational levels of a staff performing work, which could affect the quality of the products. The negatives are as follows. Poor communication system may prevent effective training from taking place. Trained employees may leave for better jobs after they've gained more skills from the large business. Demotivated employees if they do not receive recognition for their training. Employees who specialize in narrowly defined jobs may become frustrated. Employees may not be aware of the level of competency that they should meet in order to achieve their targets. So remember, with continuous skills development, you can talk a lot about the HR function and what they can do. Moving on to adequate financing and capacity. The positives. Large businesses have sufficient financing to test everything before actually implementing it. They can afford to have systems in place to prevent errors in processes. They're able to afford product research and market researchers to gather information. They can afford to purchase quality raw materials and equipment. The negatives are, if the demand for the company's product increases, orders begin coming in a lot faster than expected, and the company may lack the capital required to fund the production of all the required stock. These rapidly growing companies can consume large amounts of capital as they try to balance their normal operations along with the expansion. Right, now on to monitoring and evaluation of quality processes. Large businesses have a system of monitoring and evaluation in place to prevent product defects and thereby minimizing waste. KPIs, or key performance indicators, are carefully selected to set realistic baselines. Data gathered from these indicators are used to effectively monitor the outcomes. Large businesses have quality control checks and procedures to ensure that there's a zero tolerance. They may be better equipped to get things right the first time with no defects. However, the negatives are large businesses are often divided and the departments work in isolation and silos, so it's difficult to get everyone to communicate effectively. It often takes longer to detect problems or respond to weaknesses, and it's not viable to check quality of all. Remember I said to you, when we looked at the continuous improvement to processes and systems, there are two extra sections which fall under this section. And the first one is what we call the PDCA model, right? And PDCA stands for plan, do, check, and then act. So I'm going to explain them, and then I'm going to give you a little example that we can use. So if we look at plan, what are you planning? You're identifying the problem, you're developing a plan, and you're planning the method within which you're going to solve this problem. Then doing, this is implementing the actual change or the process that you need to do. The C stands for check. So you're going to study the results, you're going to analyze, and you're going to assess everything to see if it was correct. And lastly, you're going to act as needed. So you're going to implement any improvement that needs to happen. Right? So with the plan, do, check, act model, one needs to think about how a business can apply this model in order to improve the quality of the product. Right, so I'm going to use a very basic example here. Imagine you own a bakery and you now need to make a cake for a wedding. So you plan the design of this cake, you plan how many ingredients you need, and you get your design, and your customer is happy with that, right? So you've got everything in order, you've got all your resources. Then you go ahead and you do, right? You actually bake the cake, you mix the ingredients, you put all the decorations on it. Then you check this cake. Does it have 3 tiers? Is that what they wanted on the cake? Is it the right color? Is your customer happy? And then you act. If the cake was meant to have 4 tiers and you only put 3 tiers, you've got to go right back to the beginning again. That's why we call this a PDCA model. It's a cycle. It keeps going round and round and round. Let's think about this in terms of finances in a business. You may plan to make 10% profit, right? So you put it into your budget and you've done all your planning. Then you operate, you sell your products, you get your stock in, and you're actually trying to make this profit. At the end of the month, you stop and you check, did you make 10%? And now you see you only made 8% profit. So now you need to act, you need to implement some kind of improvement because you were 2% short of the profit that you wanted to make. So you start again with a new plan. How are you going to get to that 10% rather than just sitting at the 8%? I hope that makes sense. Remember, PDCA does fall under the continuous improvement to processes and systems. Next, we're going to move on to quality circles. So what is a quality circle? It's a group of workers who meet regularly to identify, analyze, and to solve work-related problems. I like to think of it as workers who are on the ground, who are actually in the process of production, and they see where things could be done better. So they come together quite regularly, let's say once a week, 7 or 8 of them, and they discuss how they could improve the processes, right? So quality circles, a group of workers who do the same or similar work, and they meet regularly to identify how they could improve processes or systems. You're going to have to know the impact of having really good quality circles on a business. So the first one is they create harmony and high performance in the workplace because your employees are involved. Secondly, make suggestions for improving systems and processes in the workplace. The third thing they do, they solve problems related to quality and they implement these improvements. They investigate problems to see why is this happening, and then they suggest solutions to management so that everything can improve. Can you see why it's part of that continuous improvement? It improves the quality of products through regular reviews of quality processes, because remember, quality circles meet regularly. And lastly, it increases employees' morale and motivation. The importance of quality circles as part of the continuous improvement to processes and systems is often asked in a question which is out of 8 marks. So I highly recommend that you learn 4 of these really, really well. All the best, everyone.